Welcome to the Brighten Your Day podcast.
Hi, welcome, good morning, or good afternoon, or whatever time you're listening to this. First, I would just like to take just 1 second, ground, maybe take a deep breath, and you can join me too. And just really be here. And obviously, if you're in video form, I am just in the most beautiful park/beach ever. I'm sitting at a picnic table and it is just, it's been so awesome. So, I got called out. I went down a YouTube rabbit hole and I danced in my kitchen for the first time. What does this all have to do with each other? I will tell you. I will tell you that. It all ties into my incessant need of taking the fun out of absolutely everything. So this whole topic is going to be on bringing the fun back, okay? I'm going to start out with me getting called out. Obviously, it's not like the best thing to, one, admit your faults and admit that you got called out for something, but two, it was so necessary. Ever since I have heard about this frame of mind and then got called out for it myself, it's really changed a lot of my perspective. So I think that if this helped me, this would help you as well, right? So call it perfectionism, call it the need for success or the want for success or whatever. But I have an incessant need to take the fun out of absolutely anything. I have a need to turn everything into a business idea instead of just a hobby. And yes, that can be a good thing because you're always thinking for the future and, you're always trying to be successful, but it can also be a bad thing. So when I wanted to start this travel podcast, obviously it was so exciting for me for so many reasons, but I was sitting there talking to Preston, my husband, and I was like, okay, so I have to figure out if I can do it outside and where I should do it, and what if people don't want to sit outside with me, and what if traveling with my equipment's too hard, and all of these things, okay? So I was just talking about all of my problems that I had to figure out. And I had originally told him this concept, but then he reiterated it to me and called me out, which I was so happy about. He asked me the one pivotal, just perspective-changing question, Brighton, what would it be like if it was fun? In that moment, it really hit me. One, instead of saying I have to, it's kind of changing it to I get to. Oh my gosh, I get to be outside and film a podcast and talk about the things that I love. And I get to figure out these challenges and make it as fun as possible, as fun as I want it to be. So yes, he called me out. We were at the dinner table eating dinner, and yeah, one, I stopped complaining because no one likes a complainer. And two, I just wrote down everything that I could do to make it as fun and as enjoyable as possible. So even for today, instead of I have to film my third solo episode, I have to do all of this stuff, I started with the question of, where would I like to film it? What makes it the most enjoyable for me? One, I got a coffee, I woke up slow because I like waking up slow, and I went to my favorite place to film. I don't have to do anything that is not fun. So I definitely think this all has to tie into romanticizing your life. And yes, not all of you out there are doing a travel podcast and all of the things that I'm trying to do. And you shouldn't, because you're different than me and we have different goals and different wants in life, and that's totally fine. But it ties back to the idea of romanticizing your life. Having the mundane things not feel so mundane anymore. What can make them special? What can make them enjoyable? Even your commute to work. What can make that truly enjoyable? Life doesn't all have to be success and pushing and trying and all of these things. It's no, you can stop and smell the roses. You can make sure that your commute to work is fun, is enjoyable. You can listen to your favorite podcast or your favorite music, or you can romanticize your morning routine or your night routine. And usually when you do that, at least for me, when I've started romanticizing my morning and night routines, that's when my sleep schedule has never been better. And yes, romanticizing and fun kind of go hand in hand, kind of don't, but it's the same idea. It's the same perspective shift of you're going to have to do a lot of these things that you might not want to do, but you're going to have to do them. So why not make them fun? Why not romanticize them? So now we're going to talk about this YouTube rabbit hole that I went down that I didn't know if it was going to actually tie into this, but I'm going to make it tie into it because it was so interesting to me and plays into fun, but as well as your inner child and what your inner child loves to do. Because usually when you go back to things that you liked in your childhood and things you were interested in, the way you had fun, that is usually where you find a lot of answers in your life and a lot of hobbies that you maybe have forgotten but then started again. So I was sitting in my bed at night scrolling YouTube, right? As we all do. Honestly, I've been really into YouTube way more than TikTok, which is so funny because I used to only watch TikToks and now like YouTube's making this big comeback in my life. So I'm sitting there learning random things as I usually do, and I look at this video and it's just this girl in a field and it's titled something like dancing to this song. Let me try and find the video actually. Okay, so it's titled Dancing to Radiohead in the Desert Sunset. It was so random. I don't even know why it was recommended to me because I'm not usually one to just watch like dancing videos. I don't know. So I click on it and it was so interesting. I was so immediately captivated by this girl, okay? Literally, she's just in the desert and she's just like free flowing dancing. Like it's not choreographed. It's not what you would call like a normal style of dancing. It's like you can tell she's just letting her body move through the music. There's no rhyme or reason as to how she's moving. She's like moving her arms. She's just in like a flow state. You're kind of watching from a third person view through the camera, but she's having her own lived experience, like not even worrying about who's watching her or that the camera's on her or anything, okay? And obviously if you're in video, I could like bloop up it right here so you guys can like watch what I'm talking about. Once I watched the whole video and I read all of the comments, and all these comments were like, oh my gosh, I don't know what it is about this video, but it's so captivating. It's so beautiful. It's just like showing a real raw human emotion and something that we all do, but are maybe ashamed to show it. But in that moment while I was watching it, it's just like she looked like she was having so much fun and was so immersed in the music and just looked like she was alive. So what does this have to do with the importance of having fun? For one, I sat there and I was like, why don't I do that? Why don't I dance in my kitchen or just dance for fun? And I'm not even a dancer, but it just looked so freeing. And yeah, I was just so captivated by her. But secondly, I was like, okay, why do I care so much what people think? And just to be myself and be in a flow state and dance like nobody's watching you and having fun. And there's just so many random things that I felt in that video. I can't even really put into words. I just feel like there's no rules, but people put rules on life just because. And maybe it's something that they learned from their parents or their parents before them. There's this like shame and guilt spiral loaded on top of us, and all of these like unwritten rules of what we can and can't do, and we can't look like we're having too much fun. It was so interesting. So yeah, obviously that YouTube rabbit hole led me into dancing in my kitchen for the first time ever, just by myself. Blasted music. I just chose to have fun in that moment. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when I choose to do an art project or something on a whim, I feel so much guilt. Like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be doing this art project and painting because there's nothing that comes from it. Like there's no value that comes from it. I should be working on my stuff. I should be editing. I should be filming. I should be doing all this stuff. And it's like very rare that I just sit there and do an art project or dance in my kitchen alone for fun. And it all ties back into there's so much importance to having fun and not expecting production or success from said action. Because there's so many different ways to fill up your cup. And if your fun and fulfillment cup is not filled up, you're not going to find life satisfaction even if you find monetary success. Something's going to be missing. And I think so many adults especially are missing the fun. So yeah, maybe take a second and think about your job or think about your chores or something that you know you're going to have to do over and over again. And rewrite those actions, rewrite that story that you've told yourself. How can I make folding my laundry the most fun? how can I make driving my kids to school and dropping them off and picking them up the most fun? Because in all reality, we are all not going to be here forever. At least for me, and what I believe, the whole point for life is the human experience and staying grounded and experiencing things and experiencing the beauty of life and the pains of life. But who wouldn't want it to be fun? And if you guys don't know, I am actually a personal trainer. I love health and wellness. I love fitness, everything like that, right? So there's a big thing that happens in the fitness industry that I feel like plays into this. Whenever anyone has come up to me and asked me like, oh, what form of cardio should I be doing? What form of exercise should I be doing? Should I be doing the stair stepper, or should I be running on the treadmill, or should I be lifting weights or Pilates or yoga? Like all of those things. And for one, all of those things are great. But do you want to know what my answer is and a lot of other trainers' answers are? My answer is whatever one you enjoy the most. Do you want to know why? It's because whatever one you enjoy the most, you're going to stick to. You're going to be the most consistent at. And if we know anything in life, consistency is more important than anything else, because that is truly what yields results, is what you do over and over again, what daily actions you take to be better. So with any chore, with any exercise, with any work task, anything, yes, you're going to have to do hard things. You're obviously going to have to do things that you don't want to do. But for the things that you don't want to do, wouldn't you want to make them the most enjoyable? Because then you're going to stay consistent and you're going to stay grounded and happy. Like there's nothing else to it. There really isn't. It's pretty simple. And also, you know, if you are in a job that you know it's just not for you, or if you are doing something that you know it's just not for you, maybe it's time to pivot. And that's not a bad thing either. Like there's nothing bad with knowing that you could be having more enjoyment in this life. You don't always have to be suffering and grinding. You can make it fun, and maybe it's your sign to pivot if there's just no way that you could possibly make it enjoyable. Okay, now for those of you who follow the Brighten Your Day podcast Instagram, if you're not, you should. But for those of you who do, I always do journal prompts for my solo episodes that kind of have something to do with this. And I'm going to read you the journal prompt and tell one of your stories, because obviously I want to hear from you. Okay, so my journal prompt was, take a trip down memory lane to your childhood. What were some of your favorite activities or hobbies? Reflect on why these activities brought you joy and excitement. After identifying these childhood interests, consider why you may have stopped pursuing them. What barriers or obstacles have prevented you from continuing to engage in these activities? Okay, so the entry that I chose was this one. My favorite activity was just being outside. I had no phone and no cable TV most of the time. I would find a little challenge outside and stay out there until I completed it. Usually something sports related or skateboard related. Skateboarding was awesome for me because I had to get over fear and practice difficult things and go through a learning process for each one. The fear of injury holds me back a little more now, but the principle of learning new skills and challenging myself still stands. I love that. And honestly, that makes sense that you have a little bit of a fear of getting injured, because I have never skateboarded my whole life. Like my parents did not even let me buy a skateboard. I used to want a ripstick, for those of you who like know what ripsticks are, and my parents would not let me have it like whatsoever. And they were pretty chill, but out of everything, they were like, no skateboarding. Sorry. So yeah, skateboarding, like I commend people that do it, especially do it up until their adulthood, or especially like Tony Hawk. I don't even know how old that guy is, but like that takes serious guts and dedication, and each new trick usually gets harder and harder. But it's like, obviously there's a reason why you loved that as a child. It's like learning new things can be so fun, and bringing it back to those interests and trying those things out again are so fun. Even like riding a bike, okay? Like I used to ride bikes all the time when I was little, all the time with my neighbors. It was like all these little neighborhood kids would just grab their bikes and ride around, and now I don't do that anymore. And not only does that make me sad, but it also makes me interested to do it again. Like I don't know why adults just stop doing that, stop riding bikes. And every time I see like an adult riding a bike around, I'm like, wow, I should be doing that. Like that looks fun. I used to enjoy it so much. I don't know what really stops me from doing it again. I should do it again. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm outside, obviously, and I'm getting bit by bugs. We love Florida. We love being outside. We just love it. So yeah, I encourage you to ask that question. What would it be like if it could be fun? Or what would it look like if it could be fun? What is one thing I can change about my day to make it a little more enjoyable? I think there's this big misconception that like success and enjoyment are two different sides of this spectrum. And also, it is okay to sit and just do an art project, and that is productive because it's filling you up. It's filling your cup up. It's making you feel fulfillment and enjoyment. That is it for me. Thank you guys so much for listening to this. Go ahead and go outside and see the sun, and maybe do an activity this week you used to do in your childhood. Who knows? Maybe it'll be your new hobby. Until next time.